Yes, in your book, Who Was Adam, you mentioned that due to the flood, the common male ancestor for humanity would, in fact, be Noah, not Adam, because of the extinction, while the common female ancestor would, of course, be Eve. And you cite some genetic evidence to support that. My question is there any additional evidence that would indicate that there was a mass extinction of humanity followed by a reemergence, such as archaeological or geological evidence?
Yeah, great question. And just so that everybody here is tracking with you, and this is something I didn't bring up in the talk because it can become somewhat of a complex point. But when scientists date the origin of the male lineage using the Y chromosomal data, they typically arrive at a more recent date than they get for the dating of the maternal lineage using mitochondrial DNA. So in the scientific literature, there's this question: did Adam and Eve know each other? And not only in the biblical sense, but also literally, did they know each other because of this difference in time? And so this is really a great enigma within the evolutionary camp. How do you account for this? And one possibility is that difference may actually be an artifact of the methods that you're using, that they're not identical methods, that they're very similar, and some of that difference could just simply be methodological in nature. And there's actually some evidence to indicate that. But some recent work actually shows that there's no matter what study you look at, there always seems to be this constant difference between mitochondrial Eve and Y chromosomal Adam. One possibility is, as you alluded to, the Y chromosomal data is going back to Noah and his sons, which would have had the same Y chromosome, and the mitochondrial data is going back closer towards Eve. There's a team from the University of Arizona that took another approach where they said, what if we assumed that Adam and Eve existed at the same time? What does that data tell us about effective population sizes? And they basically concluded that there was a 4 times greater population of mitochondria of women versus men. Well, that also is consistent with a flood account because you'd have Noah and his sons, again, having one Y chromosome, but there would be Noah's wife and the three wives of the sons, which may very well have each have had different mitochondrial DNA sequences that would give this appearance of different effective population sizes. So we're suggesting that maybe that discrepancy is actually pointing to some kind of flood event and is indirect evidence that there indeed was this type of flood event. Now, in terms of the archaeological evidence and the fossil evidence, you really see very little in the fossil record and the archaeological record between about 80,000 years ago and 40,000 years ago. And it's after that time where you begin to see an explosion of human remains. And those remains are basically in Europe and Asia, Africa, and Australia, and the archaeological evidence is in those regions as well. So it looks as if there was this very rapid migration at about the same time, which we would say would have reflected the migration after the flood. But there's very little prior to that, and maybe it's simply reflecting very low population sizes. So I don't know that I necessarily answered your question, but that's one of the frustrations in dealing with anthropology, is that the data sometimes is remarkably scant, and nobody has data to work with, so you're trying to put together a puzzle with only a few pieces in many instances.